Chris, good to see you. And following on the welcome news that the intention is that cricket will be back on the 1st of August.
Yeah, no, it's great to be back into training. All the guys we've had a small sample of the guys yesterday. So we had eight players coming yesterday, and we're going to have another 8 today. And then we've got I think it's 6 or 7 tomorrow as well. So yeah, all coming back into training, but all at a very slow pace at the minute. But yeah, good to be back.
You've outlined the initial steps towards resumption. Over the next 4 weeks, they'll gradually obviously increase the numbers that are coming in each day to perhaps in 2 or 3 weeks' time, collectively all be involved?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to ever since we've been back from Abu Dhabi in March. We've kind of been responding to the national crisis and seeing where cricket fits into that. So we've been kind of having twice weekly meetings with the ECB around how we can make it as safe as possible for the players and for the staff to return here. And now it seems like there's a window where we can kind of get back into that safely. But we're guided by the government, and that there's a 5-step process. So the first step is individual training, which we've started yesterday. And then step 2 is small group training, and that's what we hope to start by the back end of the week, going to next week. And for us, the small groups, they're going to be in groups of 7, and they'll stay in those groups for, again, at least a week, and maybe a bit longer. It just depends on what we're allowed to do in terms of group sizes and what's manageable as well between the coaching staff and the medical team here as well.
Right.
Yeah.
In these 12 weeks of lockdown, though, I understand that you've been giving players a sort of fitness regimes, etc., to adopt, just to try and keep them in shape ahead of the good news that cricket will return this season.
Yeah, so before, because where the players are furloughed, we've had a little bit of limited input that we can have with the guys. So they were given programs before that they went on to furlough. And again, because we haven't had access to gyms, programs have to be pretty creative in using body weight, using pieces of equipment, elastic bands that you can find online and get delivered. And again, with the limitations of how much you could go outside. So we've had quite strict guidelines and limited equipment, but the guys have been able to do a fair bit at home and look after themselves. And from the data that we're doing, all the fitness testing that we're doing with the guys coming back, we've actually found a lot of the players have lost quite a bit of weight, actually. But we attribute that to because they've not been able to train and get in the gym as regularly as they normally would. A lot of them have lost a fair bit of muscle mass. So they've done all they can, and that's why it's really important now. We've got kind of 4 weeks to prepare to get them back to competitive cricket, and we'll keep a close eye on them to make sure they kind of get back to the stage they need to.
Yeah, on that point, there's been a lot of talk in the press from people like yourselves working on strength and conditioning and physios with the club, that there is that concern that particularly fast bowlers are being highlighted, for example, that they probably really do need at least 3 weeks of decent intensive training, as you would normally do pre-season, just to be fully fit when we do start, and address the possibilities and the problems of just breaking down so early.
Yeah, it's a really complicated question, because the ICC guidance is you need somewhere between 8 to 12 weeks to get a bowler prepared for Test cricket. And obviously, if we play red ball cricket, you'd argue that the amount of overs the bowlers have got to do is on a similar level. So there is benefits to playing the shorter format, that you're not bowling for long, and that will have less stress on your bones. And also with the data that we're finding out as we're coming back, like I was saying earlier, that there's a lot of muscle mass lost, and we know that muscle helps dissipate force. And if you haven't got as much muscle as you had there before, that stress has got to go somewhere, which will go onto bones, which leads to stress fractures. So it is a concern of ours, and it's obviously we'll go on the guidance of what the ECB give us, but yeah, we're doing everything we can to kind of help our bowlers be as best prepared for whatever's thrown at us.
And I guess also is the pragmatic sort of overview that you probably have to take responsibility for, of, as we're all being told, you know, sort of social distancing, etc., etc., sanitisation. I mean, you know, you get a group of guys together who all have met face to face for 12 weeks. You know, they've the banter starts again, don't you? But you've just got to make sure they're doing the right things, keeping their distance, and you know, just giving themselves every opportunity to keep safe.
Yeah, and that's there's been a lot of education and a lot of the same messages going to players and staff that are accessing the same facilities, that it's all underpinned by social distancing and good hand hygiene. And if anyone kind of doesn't follow those rules and procedures, then it could bring the whole place down. So yeah, it's taken seriously by the club, and particularly the ground operations and the cricket operations managers have done a really good job to make it a nice, safe environment for everyone to be able to stick to those rules as well.
Are we in a situation where you're testing players' temperatures morning and at the end of the sessions as well?
Yes, right. So players, coaches, anyone again who accesses we call it the inner zone, they have to do a daily questionnaire that just tries to weed out if anyone's got any symptoms, if they've got anyone vulnerable in their household, and as well as taking their temperature. And then all that information is reviewed before people are allowed into the inner zone. And obviously, if anyone has any queries about that, they're not allowed access, and that will be reviewed by our club doctor. So yeah, there's fairly strict protocols about who's allowed in and who's not at the moment. So,
all seems quite onerous compared to what we would normally do. Just rock up at the county ground and you know, the players train, or the fans just come in. But at the same time, we do adapt well, don't we? I'm sure this will become sort of the regular for a lot of players as they move on. It will become a natural thing to do, won't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think we all see that we all want to get back to work, and if this is what it takes to make it a safe environment, then I haven't had to come across anyone yet who doesn't want to do a questionnaire or not wash their hands, etc. So I think, like I say, I think as we all hopefully adapt to the surrounds around us.
Yeah, indeed. Players, have you been in contact with most of them over this during the lockdown, Chris, both on a social basis and a professional basis? Yeah,
again, it's because of furlough. It's been fairly difficult. So if the players have had any new injuries, where one or two where they've had running injuries, where they've been running on through woods, etc. So it's quite clear that they can communicate with us. And if any of the people that have had long-term injuries, again, I've been able to speak to those. But for the guys that have kind of got their programs, they've just been sticking to that, and we've just left it in their own device to kind of get on with it, which they have done.
Yeah. So it's if you like, a steady return to work, and perhaps 2 weeks on from now, we'll be stepping up the intensity of the training.
Yeah. So hopefully by the back end of next week, the guys have got a few overs under their belt. The guys would have seen a few more balls in the net. So yeah, it's a real gradual build up of intensity. Let's say we always aim to have a steady progression of intensity. If you go too quickly, then again, that's when injuries happen. And so yeah, it's a real planned out, steady progression. And we're aiming for that start of August. So it's just about getting the right build up to that, really.
Yeah, the things that you're saying there about bowling in the nets, for example, presumably all the players, the bowlers, are given their own supply of cricket balls to use, are they? And there's none of this, that's the nearest ball to me, I'll pick it up and send that one down as you would normally do.
Yeah, there's really strict protocols So bowlers have been given their own box of balls, so they've got 6 balls each that they've got to use. The philosophy we've told, this has been an ECB message as well, that they call it one ball, one skin. So you only touch your own ball, and that goes the same for if you're a batter, you only touch your own equipment. So yeah, even things like giving each bowler's got their own cone to mark out their run up, so you're not again using different. Like normally they'd use spray paint to mark a run up, but for training it's a bit easier just to use a cone, so they're not sharing a can of spray paint. So yeah, there's all really things that you'd go about doing normally have kind of been really complicated, but it's been planned out, and we feel that if you follow the rules, it's a fairly safe environment.
Presumably as well, you're in touch with most or all of your 17 equivalents around the counties, aren't you? And you're getting feedback from others and learning from their experience, sharing ideas, and that helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a really positive thing of the cricket and the ECB, is that we do share information really easily. And I've been on the phone to other county physios, they've been on the phone to me. And that's one of the real positives of cricket. It's a real kind of open, and we're all kind of in it together.
Well, you mentioned the positive there, and it is positive news, as we said at the start. Hopefully, with fingers crossed, everything progresses well. 1st of August, we're looking to return. I think the chairman meets early next week, Monday, I think, to discuss what sort of format and schedule we've got. But at the moment, we're in safe hands, in your safe hands. So look after the boys and keep safe yourself. Thanks for your time, Chris. We'll catch up again shortly. Cheers.
Cheers. No worries. See ya.